Rejection, abandonment, and isolation. When you go back to your past experiences, have you suffered from social anxiety? When you look back on your history as a person, are you someone that has been motivated by your fear of rejection or abandonment or isolation? Because when we are, that can keep us really controlled in a social way because we're so afraid that people are going to not like us, that we're going to be isolated socially, ostracized, cast out. And so we find ourselves trying to dance or jump to other people's tunes and trying to dance to their songs, trying to please us, kowtow to others, trying to be appealing to others. And to an extent, it can be natural for us to want to be accepted by other people. But at what point does this become actually unhealthy for us to be constantly clamoring for the acceptance of other people? Well, when we're motivated by fear, it's really coming from our trauma that we're wanting to please others. We could have previous experiences of rejection, abandonment, isolation, and traumatic events that leave us fearing neglect, fearing loss, fearing rejection. Some of us have low self-esteem. And when you have a heightened fear of rejection and low self-worth, you internalize another person's leaving as you being inadequate. And so you view they're not wanting to be around you or they're not liking you as a sign that you are less than. You may anticipate someone's rejection in social situations, even without concrete evidence that that's actually going to happen. There's fear of vulnerability. So many of us are actually very afraid to be vulnerable, and that's why we make the choice to not trust anyone. We say, I don't trust anyone, but also then we don't trust ourselves and we don't put ourselves out there because we feel like opening up, being vulnerable in relationships, friendships, can lead to us revealing our true selves or expressing our needs and emotions, which can lead to rejection and abandonment, and that's our fear. We may have a fundamental belief that we are unlovable or unlikable. Many people fear being alone. So it's not uncommon, and some of you have heard on our Wednesday nights when we do the group discussions, and I encourage a person to cut out a toxic person, their friend or family member that's toxic. And they may reply back, well, then I would be alone. And that expression comes from their fear of being alone. But is that a logical fear? To fear being alone as an adult, to fear not having a family member nearby, not having a friend that's close to you. Well, we get a steady barrage of information about connections being so important. And so people say that we are wired for connection. And you have to try to belong, or we all want to belong, and it's the worst thing in the world to have to be alone. But is that actually accurate? Is it true that we are wired for connection? We could look at it like this. Certainly we have needs such as food is a need. But just because food is a need, does that mean whenever you don't have food, you should be in constant fear of not having it? Like whenever you're not eating between meals, you should live in constant paralysis because you need food? Well, certainly not. And we should certainly be willing to cut certain foods that are unhealthy, especially something that's poisonous. And so if you're eating poison and someone says, well, you have to stop eating that because that's poison, it's not a good response to say, well, if I don't eat, then I'll die. Of course, we need food. But what we also need is to not eat things that are poisonous. Likewise, connection may be a need, but you also need time by yourself. So we need to have a balance. And most of all, we need to not seek connections from those who are toxic. social comparisons, judgments, comparing yourselves to others, worrying about how you're perceived in society. Again, there's societal standards, and then there's you, who comes in this world as a unique individual. Does it behoove you to worry constantly about meeting those societal standards, living up to those societal standards? Or would it be better for you to enter the world just authentic or as yourself? Or maybe you grew up in a cultural system or a society or a church or religious system that really puts emphasis on conformity. So there's all this pressure that you're getting from the outside to conform, to be like everyone else. But should that be your main focus and your main goal? To be like everyone else? Isn't there room for any deviation, any abnormality? Is it bad for you to be weird or different? The most healthy position you can come from is the position of personal authority. Again, the most healthy position you can come from is the position of personal authority. This is understanding your power, your worth as an individual, understanding that you have the authority, you are the boss, the king, the queen of what you bring to the table. Those are your resources. That's yourself, including your body, your soul, but it's your energy. You are the boss of that. You are the boss of your time. You are the boss of your space. You are the boss of your skills, your beauty, your talents, right? Your abilities. And so therefore you will not just give these things to people without an equitable arrangement in place. So that doesn't allow you to allow yourself to be used and abused by other people. So recognize yourself as the boss, as the authority, as the only one qualified to be the head of you, because you are the only one who is exactly like you. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't submit into systems at work, in the family, right, in social constructs. It's okay to have a manager, to have different areas in which we're fitting into systems and playing a role, but that's the whole point, is that you are playing a role in those systems, playing a role. Those systems don't actually determine your worth. Those systems don't actually determine your identity. If you're an assistant manager or if you are a senior developer, that is not your actual identity. That is not your actual worth. It is a role that you play in order for us to work harmoniously with one another. So your best bet is to go into every situation 100% authentic in your personal power. Does that make sense? Now, the reason why many of us as trauma survivors fear being authentic is because we fear that people aren't going to like us. And so we want to do the song and dance. One woman said, I became the perfect chameleon. I felt like I could become whatever I needed to be with whatever group I needed to be. She was constantly changing herself, changing her colors around different people. This means acting like she had opinions that she didn't really have in order to just blend in. Should that be our goal? To be the ultimate chameleon? Or isn't it true that a person who stands for nothing can fall for anything? We don't want to be at a point where we're afraid of different people from different social groups being in the same room at once because we won't know who to be and how to act because we're too busy acting one way with this group and another way with this group. And so we should lead with authenticity. Now, you might have developed a belief like Tanya had, where Tanya said, I can please everyone. Or even at one time I thought, I could get everyone to like me. Or you might believe, I can make everyone happy. But those beliefs are false and they're detrimental to the self because they put you on a hamster wheel of chasing something you can never attain. Because isn't it true that when you think of any person in history, any famous person, everyone, no matter how well known, is disliked by someone? Isn't that the case? Every person, no matter how well known, is disliked by someone. And so when I was in high school, I had the goal. I wanted to be the most popular kid in school. That was my goal. And then when I was done with high school, I wanted to go out and I wanted to be a famous person. I thought I could get everyone to like me. But then when I studied the lives of famous people, then I started to realize, well, not all famous people, in fact, most famous people are not loved by everyone. But then I thought, well, I know someone who's loved by everyone, Will Smith. Like I said, that was in high school. So that belief didn't age well, right? So is it true that you can get everyone to like you? Even if you did, it would just be for a moment. Everyone is hated. Even people hated Gandhi. People hated Jesus. Everyone is hated. There's nobody who doesn't have haters. So then should you be spending your time trying to get haters to like you? Absolutely not. The reality is when you show up as authentic, or if you show up as inauthentic, there are going to be people who like you and people who dislike you. But if you show up as inauthentic into a situation and people dislike you, then they're disliking an inauthentic version of you, so they never get to know the real you. So you never really know if they would have liked you. And so you'll always have to wonder, I wonder if I would have been authentic if they would have liked me, because they certainly don't like the inauthentic version of me. In fact, it's actually going to drive you mad thinking about how you could have got them to like you, because you were trying to get them to like you and they still didn't like you. And then there will be people who do like the inauthentic version of you. They'll say, you're so nice, you're so lovable, you're so pleasing, you're so kind, you're so this, you are so cooperative, you're such a team player. And then you're going to go home at night and cry yourself to sleep. Because all of the love you're getting and all of the likes are for an inauthentic version of yourself. Because you were so afraid that you would be abandoned, that you were rejected, that you would be isolated, that you didn't want to show up as your real self. But what happens if you show up as authentic? Well, just like in the former, you're going to have people who like you and people who dislike you. But notice what's different now. The people who dislike the authentic version of yourself are the exact people you want to dislike you. Why? Well, because they're not compatible. They don't like the real you because they just don't like people like you and people who like the things that you like. So that means they don't have things in common with you. They are not compatible with you. And people who are not compatible with you are the best people to walk right out of your life. And that's at best. A lot of the people who don't like you won't like the real authentic version of you because it's going to have boundaries, it's going to have assertiveness, it's going to have opinions, because you're not a people pleaser. The authentic version of yourself is just you with your opinions, and you're not always in a good mood. And so guess who's rejected, who's running away from you? Narcissists and abusers. They will not like the authentic version of you. The best way to repel narcissists is to show up as you with all the boundaries and all the assertiveness and all the personal opinions and all the ability to say no. And a total disregard for pleasing anyone. That's how you reject a narcissist. That's how you repel a narcissist. They will be totally repulsed by you and they will run away. And is that a good thing? Yes. We want narcissists to run away from us. We want the abusers to run away, the psychopaths to run away, the sociopaths to run away. And when they see someone that they can't control, who's comfortable in their own skin, who's authentic, they have no place there in your life. So they have to run away. They need someone they can control, someone who is desperate for approval. When you're not showing up as desperate for approval, then they go away from you. So what have we learned? If we show up as authentic, then people will dislike us. But the people that dislike us are the people we want to dislike us. Shoot, Go away. Good. Now we've gotten those people to abandon us. Is abandonment a good thing? Absolutely. Abandonment is a part of life. Write that in your notes. Abandonment is a normal part of life. We want to get these people to abandon us. That just makes our job so much easier. By the way, there will be some people who like the authentic version of you. Not most people. It will be a minority. A minority of people will like the authentic version of you. And guess what? Those are the people that you want to like you, because you're going to like them too, because they vibe with you. They're like, I like your energy. I like your style. Oh, haha. They think everything you say is funny. They love the way you rejected something that someone said and you just told them point blank, no, I'm not into that. I'm not feeling that. They love it. They love your musical choices. They love your personal life choices. They love your style. They like the way you dress. You're just being you. You don't even care about anyone liking you. And here you're getting a fan club. And why does that happen? Well, because it'll happen to anyone if they're authentic. When you're getting likes and you're getting love for an inauthentic version of yourself, you feel like you can't trust it. And therefore, no one loves you because you were trying to get everyone to love you. But when you let go and you say, I understand most people aren't going to love me. To be crude, about 30% will hate me. Those are the haters. 30% will be like blasé. They don't care one way or another about me. So I don't care about them either. And then there will be another 30% over here that are going to love me. That's your tribe. But you can't get to this 30% when you're too desperate to hold on to all these people that either hate you, abuse you, use you, or don't really care about you. You can't find your tribe. And your people will look, the people who could have been your tribe will look at you with disdain, seeing that behavior. That's not what they like. They would have loved the real you, though. So why not show up as authentic? Like I said, I had the goal in high school to be the most popular kid. Okay. And this wasn't going to be an easy task because I had a lot of things working against me, but I used what I had to my advantage, which was my sharp wit. So I became the class clown, right? And so I was funny. That's the thing that I had, and I will pull it out at all times. I was funny. The girls liked me, the guys liked me because I was funny, right? And it seemed like I had just about every group of people in my pocket. It seemed like every group liked me, but there was this one girl in my class who just hated me. Whenever I would come in to the room and I would charm everyone with my wit, she would roll her eyes when I would come into the room. I didn't know why this girl didn't like me. Her name was Melissa Crotch. I'm not kidding. That was her real name. And come to think of it, that may be partly why she didn't like me, because I probably made some cracks at that name. Probably. But that's beside the point. So one day I walked up to her and I just asked her point blank. I said, Melissa Crotch, why don't you like me? I wanted to know. I can get everyone to like me, so I thought, but I couldn't get Melissa Crotch to like me. Why doesn't Melissa like me? And you know what she said to me? She said, you're not funny. Now, here's the thing. She could have said you're ugly, and that could have worked. She could have said you're not likable, or I don't like your voice. She could have said anything, but you're not funny was the one thing she could not say, because that was the one thing I had. Even the teachers would laugh. So I realized something very important in that moment. The reality is that Melissa Crotch was never going to like me. The real reason Melissa Crotch didn't like me is because Melissa Crotch didn't want to like me. She didn't want to. And come to think of it, she really wasn't that well liked or likable herself. She was not popular. And so why in the world would I spend my time trying to get people who didn't even want to like me to like me? It doesn't make sense, does it? It doesn't make sense for you either. The people who don't like you, they don't like you because they don't want to like you. That's why we call them haters. That's the one thing they do well, is they hate. These people have always existed in every society of mankind, in every social club, in every group. They are there. In every gender, there are haters. So why would we spend our time trying to get people who don't authentically like us to like us? It's better just to show up as yourself and allow your tribe to manifest. Let's change the paradigm. Paradigm being a fancy word for the way we look at things. So let's change the paradigm. Instead of looking at things as, I need to run away from rejection, I'm so scared of rejection. Let's change it. How about, I embrace rejection? I embrace rejection. Because that's how we get to our 30%, right? That's how we find our tribe. It's through rejection. I embrace rejection. I want people to dislike me because it's already there. It's a part of life. So why don't we embrace it? So let's adopt this new belief. I embrace rejection. Rejection is good. Why is rejection good? Well, one, it leads to authentic connections. Rejection is good because it leads to authentic connections. Rejection is good because it gets rid of people who are abusive. I embrace rejection. Rejection is good because it removes all people who are not compatible with us. I embrace rejection. And rejection is good because it gives us more time and space to be more ourselves and to find ourselves. Abandonment, isolation should not be something that scares us, right? When we're children, the concept of abandonment can be life or death. This is where the abandonment wound typically comes in. Because when our parents emotionally or physically abandon us or someone leaves, that's very important. As a child, if it's your caregiver, it can induce a distress within you that will imprint the psyche and give you abandonment trauma, so that any other time in your life, when you even think someone's going to abandon you, when you even think they could be about to be thinking about abandoning you, you're already getting nervous. And then you go into a trauma response, such as fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And fawn is, forget me, it's all about you. Fawn is, let me lose so that you can win and I can survive. And so we find ourselves fawning in our lives, just trying to keep everybody happy, trying to make everybody pleased, because we just cannot handle the idea that our mom would abandon us, but we're grown-ups, or that our dad would abandon, or that our adult children would abandon us. I need them. They are my everything. Let's shift the paradigm. You are an adult, a grown-up. Now, if someone abandons you, it really isn't the same thing it was when you were a child, is it? If you're at Target with a person, even if the person was your ride, and then they get in their car and they just leave and you're just at Target, it really wouldn't be necessary for you to break down into tears and like be going up to security guards and, please, can you help me? My friend has abandoned me, like you would when you were a child, right? Or you just wouldn't know what to do. It's not like that. Now, as an adult, you would maybe feel annoyed that they treated you that way, maybe wonder why, but outside of that, there's not a life or death situation. You've got so many options at your disposal. And if you start thinking, you realize, oh, I can ride the bus, I can ride the train, I can call an Uber, I can call a Lyft, I can ask someone for a ride, I can walk home. I'm an adult. I have options at my disposal. But some people who try to help others in a therapeutic way to get over abandonment will go as far as to say, hey, abandonment's not possible for an adult. And to that I say, you just went over to the other extreme. Because if we're honest, you can still get abandoned. I mean, if someone left me at Target, they still kind of abandoned me, right? It's just not life or death. Abandonment is still possible. One of the worst types of abandonment we can experience is emotional abandonment. Someone's in a relationship with us and then they suddenly leave or ghost us, or someone is supposed to be our husband, but they don't say they love us. They don't hug us. They don't kiss us. Or someone is supposed to be our wife, but they don't show affection, and they don't give intimacy. See, these are forms of emotional abandonment, and these forms of abandonment really, 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 really hurt. But are they life or death? No. Therefore, it's still not appropriate for us to respond in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, because we're afraid that they might do that they might get away from us. Does that make sense? So then how should we respond at the idea that someone might abandon us emotionally or otherwise? Well, we must face the fact that abandonment is a part of life. And we embrace rejection. So the faster this person can hurry up with the rejection, the faster we can move on and find an authentic connection. It can violate our values to lose someone who's very important to us. But it's good for us to remind ourselves that we are happy that that person feels free to be honest. Because would you really want a man or woman that you love to stay close to you when they didn't like you or they weren't enjoying the relationship? It's better that they leave. Of course, many covert narcissists will stay right there next to you, abandoning you emotionally while sticking to you in a physical sense. And so then they put us in the position where we've got to make the move and we've got to reject them. But it's okay because we embrace rejection. Even when it's us who has to pull the plug, we can do it. How? How can I let go of this person? Well, we may have to overcome the trauma bond. To overcome your trauma bond, you need to reprogram the subconscious mind, which is valuing them as being everything to you. You have to devalue them in your mind. How? By doing a devaluation list every day. 5 things that are unacceptable about this person. This is not to hate on them. This is to help to reprogram the mind to see things in reality instead of living in the disreality of trying to fawn and please and what can I do to get this emotional abandoner to stop emotionally abandoning me? No. We let them go. If they're not going to play their role in the relationship, we let them go. They no longer qualify to be our close companion. So we let them go because we've got standards. And so you have to qualify to be my close companion. And if you are emotionally unavailable and emotionally abandoning me, then you don't meet my standards. You don't meet my qualifications. So therefore you will be dismissed. Can you give them time to work on it? Well, that's up to you. You're the boss. You're the queen. You're the king. But know when to say enough is enough. And don't be afraid to send someone their pink slip in your relationship. Doesn't matter if you're just friends, or it doesn't matter if you've been lifelong partners. Don't be afraid to let someone go. Well, but then I'll be alone. Is isolation the worst thing that can happen to us? It's actually worse to be abused, to be neglected, to be abandoned. It's worse than being by yourself. You see, because when you're alone, for the first time in your life, perhaps, there is no one abusing you. There is no one neglecting you. Perhaps for the first time in your life, you don't even know what that's like. You're fearing something you haven't ever tried. Because due to the codependency, you've been jumping into relationship after relationship so fast so that you wouldn't ever be alone. You've never left your parents' house so that you wouldn't be alone. This has become an irrational fear. It's only by removing the toxic persons from our lives and to stop chasing them that we suddenly open ourselves up for the potential of authentic companionship and connections. But that's not even the reason we do it. We do it because we have a duty in this universe to care for that child, your inner child. Your inner child is a real person. It's you, specifically your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the same mind you had as a child, and it needs to be cared for. It needs to be protected. You're not protecting your inner child when you allow yourself to be around someone who is verbally abusive or is emotionally damaging, is an abandoner. It's not protecting your child. So become an advocate for your inner child. Protect them. And dismiss, reject, let go of any partners that are ultimately not caring for you the way you deserve to be cared for and the way you care for yourself. Does all of that make sense? We can shift the paradigm around these concepts. Rejection, not a bad thing. Isolation gives us an opportunity to heal, to grow, to not be abused, to have solitude, which is not a bad thing. That's when we get our best work done, really. If we're going to change the world, after all, we're going to need some alone time to think up some really good concepts and creations.